Welcome, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Raw Nerd right here on EdgeMediaSource.com. How y'all doing? It is the middle of October. Can you believe that? Already. I'm your host. I'm Susan C. And I got to tell you, Bad Boy Dynasty is not with us today. Poor little guy's holed up, sick as a dog. Poor little thing. Feels bad for him. I wasn't here last week because I was sick, and now he's sick. So hopefully we'll get our sick together. And both of us be back for next week, and it'll be terrific. It'll be wonderful. But if you're listening, Dennis, I hope you're feeling better. Great wishes for you. Well, it is the middle of October. What a shock. This year is flying by so fast, I can't even stand it. And guess what? We still don't have a budget. We are shut down. We are shut down. This was making my head want to explode last week. It really was. When I wasn't doing the show because I was so sick. I had no voice. And unfortunately, my not having a voice does nothing to affect the voice in my head, which is screaming at me, "We are shut down? Are you kidding me?" Put a big "We are closed" sign on the country. Good Lord. No. No. Republican and Democratic leaders are keeping lines of communications open, they say. That's what they call it anyway. Because I'll tell you, come October 17th, in just a few days, Congress has got to raise our borrowing limit, the cap that's on the nation's borrowing limit. They have to authorize the government to borrow more money to finance its existing obligations, or we are in default. Now, we have had government shutdowns. This is like the 17th, I think, governmental shutdown we've had in this nation. What we're in right now. And if you'll remember, we're still in sequestration. You remember that? Doom and gloom, the world was going to end, blah, 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 blah. Well, it wasn't as bad as people thought it was going to be. It didn't affect as many people as people thought it was going to. So it fell off a lot of people's radars. But I guarantee you it's still affecting you right now. And we're still under sequestration. That has not gone away. And now they're talking about first we're under sequestration. Now we're in the shutdown. And now we're looking at default. Really? Somebody somewhere in Washington is either on drugs or seriously needs to find a dealer and get on some right away. This is just bizarre, beyond comprehension. This is the United States of America, for the love of Pete. We don't not pay our bills. That would make us a deadbeat nation. We are not deadbeats. I'm not so sure about Congress at the moment. And I got to tell you, congressional Republicans keep coming back to Obama and the Democrats saying, well, they have offered a 6-week extension on the borrowing cap. A 6-week extension. Not terribly surprisingly, Obama and the Democrats have come back and said, no. As Obama has said, that would leave the country with the same dynamic of fiscal conflict in another 6 weeks. And he said that there are areas in the White House where he believes the White House can make an agreement with the Republicans, but not on this. How do you have a government that runs for 6 weeks at a time? This isn't how we're set up. This isn't how we were ever designed to operate long term. 4 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 6 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks. No. Congress, we have not had a budget in 4 years. 4 years. 4 years. Okay? And love him or hate him, you can't blame Obama for this because this is Congress. It is Congress's job to pass a budget. That is probably, it could be argued, their main priority job that they have beyond passing bills, enacting laws, whatever. Passing the national budget is their primary obligation. as a member of Congress. We've seen that they can't seem to do this. All they've been doing is playing kick the can. For 4 years now, they've been playing kick the can. The deadline comes up, well, we'll just, we'll put a little, extend it for 4 weeks here or 6 weeks and kick the can a little further down the street. Nothing gets resolved. Nothing gets settled. There's still that same sense of foreboding and the sword of Damocles over our heads because, well, what happens in 6 weeks then? We're right back where we started. We make no progress. Really? Seriously? This is how you want to run the country? This is how you think we ought to be doing this? And what absolutely boggles my brain is these people keep getting reelected. Now, and I found this, I got to admit, I did find this amusing. They have approval ratings. Everything in politics has an approval rating, I guarantee you. Right now, among the American people, according to surveys that they've put out, do you know what has a higher approval rating than Congress? Hemorrhoids, toenail fungus, and dog poop. I kid you not. All three of those came back in surveys that were done as having a higher approval rating among the American people than our own Congress. How flipping pathetic is that? And I got to tell you, I am so fed up with the embarrassment, the black eye that Congress keeps giving the American. Because if you live in another country, they don't look at it as, well, there's the American people and the American government. Just like I don't look at France and think the French people and the French government, or Britain is, the parliament and the people. No, there's no separation in your mind. It's just the English or the French or the Americans. So as far as I'm concerned, this is an enormous black eye to the American people. We're the laughingstock of the world. There's like, they think they're a world power. Yeah, right. They can't even get their crap together enough to pass a budget. Good God. It is absolutely embarrassing. And I hope, please, come next election, I'm hoping that the American people do not develop, as they sadly, historically, seem to do over and over, this bizarre sort of amnesia. Every time it gets close to an election, especially Congress, Senate, House of Representatives, the big ones, every time it gets close to an election, the political machine kicks into gear. You have a Democratic political machine, you have a Republican political machine, and they are ponderous and enormous, I guarantee you. And the only fuel they run on is money. So the GOP and the Democratic Party dump tons of money into these machines to portray their candidates in as positive a light as possible, no matter how bad their record is. They're spin doctors. That's all it is. They're putting a favorable spin on their boy or girl and hoping that the American public is stupid enough to forget back here when they were digging their heels in and say, well, if you don't play with us, we'll take our ball and go home. The country could go off the cliff. They don't want you to remember that. They want you to remember, I was there and I voted against abortion, or I voted for women's rights, and I voted for this, and I voted against that. And boy, aren't I a wonderful human being. And then their opponent, backed by the opposite political machine, is filling your ears with how their opponent is in reality the son of Satan. And if you vote for them, you're voting for, child sacrifice and horrible things to happen. I'm fed up with it. I really am. Now, I'm not Republican and I'm not Democratic. I am proudly independent. I vote for the person I vote for the platform. I do not now, nor have I ever, voted for the party. And I think if you vote for the party, strictly, you're an idiot. You're a big part of why we are in the boat that we're in right now, in the situation that we find ourselves. You're a big part of that. Because there are wonderful candidates in the Democratic Party. There are wonderful candidates and people out there really trying to do good in the Republican Party. Yeah, there are. And if you pass up a fabulous candidate who actually has good, solid ideas, has good ethics, has good ideas for what is going to get this country moving forward, and you pass on this candidate for some, Craven Weasley idiot like we have in there now, simply because of the party, you're eroding the foundation of what this country is, for the love of Pete. Stop it. Please. Stop it. You cannot vote for we're to the point now, the parties are so big. They are so big, we can't do that anymore. Somewhere, somehow, the bad eggs have got to be weeded out. And they've got to be gone. If you want to see your life get better, you want to see your economy get better, we finally are starting to see the light at the end of the recession tunnel we've been in forever, it feels like. Several years. Finally starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. This bonehead move, if they let us default come October 17th, we're throwing not only ourselves back into recession, possibly as bad as it was in 2007, which was the height of the recession when it was at its worst. We're going to take the rest of the world with us because other economies are balanced on our economy, especially when you talk about the debt limit. This is money we're spending to pay the bills to other countries, what we owe to other countries. And yes, we owe money to other countries. Yes. They owe us, we owe them. It's one big happy world. One big happy world. But if we don't pay them, they can't pay their bills. Because guess what? We're like the biggest country in the world. So consequently, we owe more than anybody else, pretty much. Yeah. Think about it. It's a game of dominoes. It really is a game of dominoes. And right now, the Republican Party, which at the moment, they're the ones on my radar, they're the ones on my hit list. I got to tell you, they're pushing us off the cliff to another recession. And apparently they don't care. Their approval rating has been dropping like a stone for weeks now. Does it seem to you like anybody cares? No. They haven't changed a damn thing. Not one thing. And I got to tell you, this old boy, Ted Cruz, is a Republican from Texas. As far as I'm concerned, Congressman Cruz, or Senator Cruz, excuse me, needs to stop saying he is a Republican from Texas, because he is not. He needs to start calling himself a Tea Party member from Texas, because that's exactly what he is. We're talking a group of 42 Republican senators who are Tea Party backed. And don't kid yourself, there's big money there. Big money. But it's a small group who are digging their heels in and saying, no. They're the ones that said, Ted Cruz, was the original leader of the effort to link the shutdown to defunding Obamacare. That was his pushing thing. That was the main thing he wanted. No, we will not pass a budget. We will not pass a spending cap increase unless you let us defund Obamacare. Obamacare, which is the Affordable Care Act, And yes, it's the same thing. It cracked me up. They went out and actually did surveys to people. Which do you prefer, Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act? Well, I like the Affordable Care Act, or I like Obamacare. It's the same thing. It's the same. Everyone who said that on those surveys, you look stupid. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. This is something that has been promoted, adopted, enacted, scrutinized by the Supreme Court, found to be legal and passing. Excuse me. Obama got reelected in his last election on the Affordable Care Act platform. Love it, hate it, I don't care. It's a law of the land. There's a lot of things that is a law of the land I don't like. A lot of things. But just because I don't like them doesn't mean I want our entire economy of our country held hostage to it. This is extortion, pure and simple. That's all it is. And I'll tell you, this has such far-reaching implications and damage. It's horrible. It's horrible. I'll tell you one thing that really amazed me, and I was very proud to see it, actually. I was really, really pleased, is that the feds, of course, shut down national monuments. They shut down parks and stuff like this because, well, the government shut down. No money. Well, the governors in New York and Arizona said Friday that they've reached agreements with the U.S. government to reopen the Statue of Liberty and the Grand Canyon. And it's since been South Dakota as well, because the Mount Rushmore National Monument, the president's heads, that's open too. And I'm tickled. Personally, I'm really, really tickled. The main thing is that these monuments are all pretty far out there. They're like not right up around big cities and whatnot. Mainly because of what they are. Since they were created, since they were open, since they were named to be monuments, national monuments and whatnot, tourist attractions, tourist destinations, hundreds and hundreds of small towns have sprung up around all sorts of federal monuments, parks, and whatnot. They're there to cater to the tourist, to help draw in the tourist, to give the tourist somewhere to sleep, eat, this sort of thing, to deal with tourists. And I'll tell you, if you're going to take a trip to the Grand Canyon, which I've done, you're really glad to see, there's a hotel that's not 27,000 miles away from the Grand Canyon that we can stay at. But these towns, and there's hundreds and hundreds of them, and it's not just these three monuments, it's all the parks, all the monuments, pretty much have the same issue. You shut down the federal government, people don't go to these monuments. They don't go to the parks. They don't spend their dollars keeping these towns afloat. And a lot of these towns, the only time they get money in, the only influx they see is during the tourist season. They have to make enough money during the tourist season to buy the entire town over through the fall, through the winter, through the spring, and back into tourist season again. You think they're doing that? I don't think so. Now, I'm really glad the congressman's gym is still open. They don't have attendance because, they had to send them home. But the gym is still open. So I'm real glad they can go work out when they feel like it. But Mom and Pop, who own the restaurant on the south wall of the Grand Canyon, where people love to go, they're going broke. And the guy that has the burro tours or the helicopter tours, the towns around Mount Rushmore, the little towns that have sprung up, they're all going broke because there's no tourist dollars, because tourists can't get there, and I want to see this stopped. It's dragging our economy down. We have a hard enough time making ends meet now. I'd like to know how the Republicans get away with making it even worse and laughing about it and acting like, as long as we get our way. No. I did not vote for John Bonner. I did not vote for this Cruz guy. Ted Cruz. If you're in Texas, I'm sure you did. And wherever Bonner's from, I'm sure those people voted for him in. But I didn't. And Bonner and Cruz and the other Republicans that are digging their heels in are the ones that are holding my country hostage, my economy hostage. And if I didn't vote for you, I never gave you that kind of power. Because if I didn't vote for you, and I didn't have the opportunity to vote for you, I didn't get to know about your background. I didn't get to know about your voting record. I didn't get to know all the things that you find out about an individual when they run for office. And I guarantee you, sitting here in Washington State, I didn't hear a lot when Senator Cruz was running in Texas. I didn't hear a lot about his background and his platform. How then does he get to turn around and hold the rest of the country's economy? No. Make an end of it. Be done. Pass a budget. 6 weeks, bullcrap. What kind of government runs for 6 weeks? That's something you see in a third world country, where every 4 to 6 weeks they have a new coup, and a new junta moves in, and then they've got to figure out a whole new government until 4 to 6 weeks later, and somebody else comes in and does a coup. That's not the way you run the biggest country on the face of the planet. It's not. And it's downright embarrassing the people that seem to think we should. Because apparently the people who think we should run it that way are the ones tasked with seeing to it that we don't run it that way. Wow. What a thought. Call me crazy. Call me nuts. Do your damn job. Pass a budget. Raise the lid so we can pay our bills and not be deadbeats and not be an embarrassment. Just a thought. Go take a break here. We'll be back right after these ads here at the bottom of the hour, and I'll see you in just a few. Hang in there. It's a raw nerve.
Legacy Group in Silverdale is a well-respected independent mortgage banker, absolutely committed to helping Kitsap County families on their path to home ownership. As an employee-owned company, the Legacy Group has a strong stake in your success, and they want to be your lifetime partner in helping you develop a strong real estate portfolio. Call the Legacy Group in Silverdale today at 698-6440 and find out how they can help you get started on the road to home ownership. 698-6440 for the Legacy Group, a lending experience that's a little different and a lot smarter.
Hey, it's St. Paul with the Outlaw Radio Network, and you can email me anytime at stpaul@outlawradionetwork.com. As always, you can check out our live show every Sunday night from 7 to 11 p.m. on our website, outlawradionetwork.com. And you can also download our podcast from that website or from the iTunes Store for free. More of the Outlaw Radio Network after this.
The Home Buyers Association of Kitsap County is an association of professional builders, subcontractors, service providers, and purveyors representing the home building industry. For more than 50 years, the Home Builders Association of Kitsap County has provided information, education, and services that promote the health and welfare of the home building industry. As leaders of the industry, the Home Builders Association of Kitsap County fosters safe, affordable housing and addresses issues affecting our industry. To find out more, visit them online at kitsapHBA.com.
Located on beautiful Silverdale waterfront, Oxford Suites offers 104 non-smoking suites. It's the perfect place for an evening away or for those out-of-town relatives, and with military and senior discounts, it has never been more affordable to stay. Enjoy a complimentary hot breakfast, free high-speed wireless internet, on-site fitness center, and indoor pool. Oxford Suites in Silverdale, exceptional, has never been so affordable.
Bremerton Bar and Grill is your new neighborhood bar and grill. At Bremerton Bar and Grill, they're an American-style, family-friendly restaurant that offers spectacular outdoor dining, happy hours twice a day, 18 draft beers, award-winning menus, and fast, friendly service. Need space for a private party? Reserve the Brad Johnson Private Dining Room and dine in a real bank vault. Bremerton Bar and Grill, 190 Pacific Avenue, right across the street from the ferry terminal in downtown Bremerton.
And welcome back, everybody. This is the Raw Nerd right here on EdgeMediaSource.com. Hi, I'm Susan C. I'm your host. My stalwart partner in crime, bad boy Dennis D here. He's homesick today, so feel better, big guy. Feel better. Want to remind everybody, be sure you stay tuned after my show, because right after my show is the Outlaw Radio Network, and it is from 7 to 11. And tonight, they are going to have live here in studio Bremerton Mayor Patty Lynn and her opponent, Todd Best. And they're going to sort of have an open, honest discussion about where Bremerton's going to go and their vision for Bremerton. And I think that's pretty awesome. So be sure to stay tuned for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be hosted by K-Dog and Sir Paul, St. Paul, the voice of reason. And it'll be interesting. Now, this is something that kind of gave me pause as well. There's so much giving me pause these days, I'll tell you. Out of Tacoma, it says that a Kitsap Sun reported that a Port Orchard man convicted of first-degree child rape in 2012 will be able to watch porn once released from prison. Will be able to. Yeah. After a state Court of Appeals reversed release conditions imposed by Kitsap County Superior Court. Now, an appeals court opinion issued Tuesday ruled that conditions barring Maxfield David Lau from owning pornography were improper and unconstitutionally vague. Now, since September of 2012, Lau has been serving a 119-month sentence, almost 10 years. Okay, we'll get back to that. At Coyote Ridge Correction Center, a medium-level state prison near Tri-Cities for first-degree child rape. The man was sentenced to 119 months in prison, almost 10 years, for first-degree rape of a child. This was since February of 2012. That's not 10 years ago. Not even close. What, did he get out for good behavior? This is something that drives me crazy, too. People do horrible things in society. They go to prison. They're sentenced. They go to prison. They do a fraction of the time that they were sentenced to do, and they get out. That absolutely makes me insane. It really does. What's the point? Now, a jury in Kitsap County Superior Court found that LaRue was guilty of inappropriately touching a 5-year-old girl he knew on several occasions in 2011. This is according to court documents. Now, he will become eligible for release in May of 2020. The odd thing to me is that one of the things they can do is put a condition of his release that he has to pass polygraph testing to monitor for law-abiding behavior. Okay. Now, if you watch the show at all, you know that my attitude and my opinion is if you're a child molester, you're a child abuser, you should just die. I mean that. Absolutely. I mean that. You've proven you don't play well with others. You have no compunctions against taking your proclivities out on the weakest members of our society. We don't need you. Don't need you in our prisons. Don't need you in our gene pool. You are the weakest link. Bye-bye. And the thing that absolutely amazes me, is that people can be convicted of horrible, vile crimes like this, get out in a relatively short period of time, and then whine about conditions put on their being released being unfair. He thought it was unfair that he wasn't allowed to have pornography, to view pornography, or that he has passed polygraph testing to monitor for law-abiding behavior. Sorry, that's it. He also is banned from accessing a computer or the internet, and restrictions are placed on viewing pornography or sexually explicit materials. He actually won. Yeah, they said that the restrictions that were placed upon him are unconstitutionally vague and hold that the computer, internet, and cell phone condition is overbroad as written. Well, I'll tell you something. I think he was a little overbroad in his actions with a 5-year-old child. That's just me. Apparently nobody cares. I care, but I'm all alone apparently. Yeah. Do you remember? Everybody was up in arms, absolutely livid, because of real and perceived loss of freedoms that we were expected to give up, loss of privacy we were expected to give up by the NSA, the FBI, the CIA, and other 3-letter acronyms out there. And what do they always tell us? We would get upset, understandably. You have no right to view my emails. You have no right to tap in on my cell phone conversations. You have no right to records of mine when I've done nothing wrong. Period. These agencies come back and say, well, we have to keep you safe. We are going to make you jump through hoops, practically disrobe, take forever and a day to get through security at an airport to make sure you're safe. Right? Apparently, these people seem to think that's a fair trade-off. I'm not so sure. This is what absolutely boggled my mind, according to the Associated Press. Canadian police said last Thursday a violent, high-risk sex offender who has been missing for more than a week has been located in the United States. But he can't be arrested because he's not wanted on any charges in the U.S. They can't touch him. Yep. According to Edmonton detective Chris Haydock, he said the U.S. border officials were warned that Michael Sean Stanley might try to cross into our country, but Stanley still managed to make it through Blaine, Washington, south of Vancouver, Monday night. So they even gave him a heads up that this violent, high-risk sex offender was going to try to cross through Blaine, and he still managed to pull it off. The man must be a flippin' genius. He must be a master magician to be able to outsmart those old boys. Yeah. According to Haydock, he says, we have no authority to go get him. We are investigating his crossing, taking a look at the details of his crossing into the United States. For us, it would have been the best outcome to have caught him prior to that. So for him to be in the United States is a concern that those agencies are going to have to follow up for sure. Now, the Canada Border Services Agency referred calls on the matter to U.S. officials. The Washington-based spokesman for the United States Department of Homeland Security was not returning phone call messages because of the federal government shutdown. And an email seeking comment wasn't immediately answered because he's been sent home. The government's shut down, remember? You think this stuff doesn't affect us? It's all trickle down. It really is. Some things are small and practically insignificant. Other things are huge. Other things are absolutely huge. Now, the immediate contact for the Seattle Office of U.S. Customs and Border Protection is not available because of the furloughs due to the government shutdown. A secondary phone number based in D.C. had a full voicemail inbox. This is all because of the shutdown. So in other words, when people on our side of the border tried to contact Homeland Security and other agencies that are tasked with keeping us safe along our borders, they could not reach anybody because of the federal shutdown. Wow. Makes you kind of proud, don't it? Yeah. Washington State Patrol spokesman Dan Coon said with no warrant, troopers and other local officers can't arrest Stanley. That's the issue. Unless he does something to make us arrest him, he said. Adding, the question is how he got through the border. Yeah, I'd like to know that too. A minor little detail. I would love to know how he got through the border, especially when they were warned ahead of time. Really. Now, Coon said the troopers had not had any contact with Stanley, but couldn't speak to county and local authorities. Stanley has a long history of sexual offenses against women and children. He's been missing since October 1st, when the electronic monitoring bracelet he was wearing was cut off and found in Lloydminster on the Alberta-Saskatchewan boundary. Last week, schools in several west central Saskatchewan county communities locked their doors and kept children inside after police got multiple unconfirmed sightings of the Edmonton man. This guy is so scary to the Canadians up there. He is such a bad man that they get an unconfirmed sighting of the guy and they lock down the schools. At a mere hint that he might be in the area, they lock down the schools. That's frightening. That is absolutely scary. Now, he's wanted currently in Canada on charges of breach of recognizance and mischief and driving offenses, but he wasn't wanted in the United States, so Hajduk said police have no authority to arrest him. They are exploring the extradition process. Oh, Lord, I hope Canada's an extraditable country, Canada and the U.S. Now, they do know his specific whereabouts, but they haven't released those details. We can take some comfort that police know where he is and will be taking the appropriate steps to ensure the communities remain safe. Yeah, I feel so safe under their protection now. Don't you? Yeah. There's no evidence that he has reoffended while he's remained elusive. At this point, it looks like he's just fleeing from us. Yeah, Stanley was released from jail in April of 2011 after completing a 32-month sentence for assault and forcible confinement. Wow. His peace bond has 20 conditions of release. 20. Including one that orders him to stay away from children. So he's a predator of women and children. He cut off his monitoring bracelet, his ankle bracelet. Made a run for the border. Apparently, the Canadian police knew he was going to try this because they warned, or shortly thereafter he did it, they knew about it, and they tried to warn officials at Blaine that he was going to try to cross over. He did, and he managed to do it. Thanks, NSA. I feel so safe. FBI, y'all doing a great job. Great. There'll be a little something in your Christmas packages, I'm sure. Little Christmas checks, a little bonus there for such a great job. Maybe it's just me. I swear, I really wonder about these agencies that are continually telling us that they need access to our information to keep us safe. They cannot keep us safe. They cannot do their job unless they have this information. This is information we don't want to give them. Okay. So they're hacking into satellites or hacking into the like Verizon system or whatever like this. And yet, when the Canadian police come out and tell them up front, hey guys, heads up, there's a really bad guy coming your way, they can't catch him. And the amazing thing to me is I've been watching the news. I watch a lot of news. I watch a ton of news sources, believe you me. And I haven't heard anybody talking about this guy. Why not? It's just one guy. Yeah, thanks for the shutdowns too. And you want to talk about weird. Because of the federal shutdowns, one of the things that's not being funded at the moment is the FDA's on-site inspection programs for our food sources. Such as, Foster Farms. Think about it. Now, I'm not going to say because of the shutdown and spotty, if at all, inspections of the Foster Farms facilities that it would have averted this multi-state, hundreds of people being sick with salmonella from Foster Farms chicken products. And Foster Farms comes back. They wouldn't even pull the chicken. They would not do a recall voluntarily because they said, well, as long as you cook it fully, there's no problem. Hello? You're talking to the average American citizen. It is not our job to see to it that your nasty, dirty product that you foist off onto us is treated absolutely meticulously to avoid becoming ill. That's not our job. Some people don't like chicken cooked all the way through, like most people do, but some people don't. Go figure. And apparently the conditions are so bad in the Foster Farms facilities that the U.S. government threatened to just shut them down, period. They gave them almost no time. They said, fix it now, or you're going to be shut down. Apparently Foster Farms really scrambled and got whatever it was that was upsetting them taken care of. But does anybody besides me remember this happening just a couple of years ago? With Foster Farms. It seems kind of like a, pattern with them. They let the place go. It gets terrible. Places. We're talking 3 facilities right now, and I'm sure there's probably more, but we haven't got inspectors out there to check on them. But say 3 facilities in such bad condition that the product coming out of it, the chicken, is so contaminated, people are getting sick. Hundreds of people are getting sick over multi-states. Really? The federal government steps in and says, well, we're going to shut you down. So Foster Farms scrambles and cleans it up. Fixes it, whatever. Takes care of whatever. And what do? The government says, well, all right, it's much better now. Or it's better now. And they go away. And Foster Farms goes, whew, glad that's over. All right, back to business as usual. Keep it cheap. Until the next outbreak. It's what it looks like to me. Because I remember Foster Farms getting in trouble for remarkably exactly this sort of thing not that long ago. Apparently there's no follow-up. But then, of course, we're in a federal government, the government shut down. There's no one to go look, no one to go check and say, you guys need to clean up your act here. People are going to get upset. Yeah. I absolutely have no tolerance for government stupidity. Okay, I don't expect people to be perfect. I mean, nobody is perfect. But I expect you to be in there pitching and trying. Making an effort. Doing the very best you reasonably can. And I think that's a fair expectation of the American citizen towards anybody in our government. That's fair. We're not getting it, but it's still a fair expectation. Now this, I don't know about you, but this absolutely made me nuts. If I'd had a voice when this came out, you'd have heard me screaming. Washington State Ferries is auctioning nine brand new multi-million-dollar generators on eBay, eBay-like website. 5 years after State Ferries port engineers began to realize that the equipment they'd ordered could never work on ferry system boats. You get that? 5 years ago, ferry engineers, the ones that work on the boats, ordered these multi-million-dollar brand new generators and then realized they won't work on the boats. They're too powerful, basically. The generators were ordered in 2006 for installation in the ferries Catleton and Yakima, but they've never been used. The generators are too powerful to safely work with existing connector cables on the boats. Really? State Ferries placed a $4.2 million order with Texas-based manufacturer Teco Westinghouse without realizing that if installed, the equipment could cause electrical explosion called an arc flash. These are engineers. They went to school and everything. Yeah. Engineers. I hope heads rolled. I really do. Now, since 2006, Washington State Ferries has paid a total of $5.5 million to Teco Westinghouse for manufacturing and storing the equipment. So we're even paying them to store it. Yeah. Oh, my Lord. Washington State Ferries also paid consultants to study whether the generators could be adapted to work on Washington State Ferry boats. No fix was ever found. All 9 generators are listed on the auction website, publicsurplus.com, with a minimum bid set at $3 million. So we're going to lose $2.5 million. $2.5 million. That's if they get the minimum. The auction went live on October 9th and is scheduled to end on October 24th. Washington State Ferries officials said the agency is attempting to sell the generators now because Teco Westinghouse planned to triple the cost of storing the 5 generators that remain at the company's facility. So not only are we paying them to store them, we're at their mercy to pay whatever jacked up price they charge for it. Couldn't we get like a used storage place or something to kind of tuck them? I don't know. We were recently informed by Teco Westinghouse that our storage costs would increase from about $1,600 a month to $5,000 a month. And they also need the storage space for other long-term use, so we had to prioritize sales efforts. This is according to Marta Cursi, Director of Communications for Washington State Ferry. Now, Teco Westinghouse reached out to potential buyers on behalf of the Washington State Ferries before the state moved forward with the online auction, but they had no success trying to find buyers. There was no solid interest. Oh, my good Lord. It's possible the generators will be purchased by mining or petroleum drilling companies, where these DC motors would still be of use. So, long story short, the Washington State Ferries, the same outfit that's always whining that they're going broke, right? They're always crying, money lost. They're always crying, we don't have enough money. We need more funding. More funding, more funding, more funding to cover our costs. Washington State Ferries, the same people that refused to hire or rehire more employees, so they had this ungodly number of sailings that were just canceled because they didn't have enough staff to staff the boats. But their engineers spent all this money buying generators that will not work, cannot be adapted to work, and now we can't sell them for what we even paid for them. I hope heads rolled. I really do. That's just stupid. That's beyond stupid. That's just moronic. I expect that sort of thing from the Three Stooges. I don't expect that from a state-funded agency that, hello, we fund that. Your tax dollars at work. Makes you feel proud, doesn't it? Yeah. God, I hope they at least sell them for the minimum bid. Or we are in trouble. I'll tell you, we are in trouble. Well, I'll tell you what, we are coming up at the top of the hour. We'll have the second hour of The Raw Nerve. Don't forget, starting at, isn't it 7:30? It is 7:30 is when the Outlaw Radio Network is going to have Bremerton Mayor Patty Lind, current mayor, and her challenger for her seat in the next upcoming election, Todd Best, they're going to be here in the studio and having a discussion about where they think Bremerton ought to be going. That ought to be interesting. I'd like to know when they're going to spend money on, somewhere besides the 8 or 9 square blocks of downtown Bremerton that most of us never see. That's just me. And they spent all that money for the Gateway Project. Lots and lots of money. And now it's all overgrown and looking nasty and looks like nobody ever did anything. It's just me. Just me. I'm sure I'm the only one who has these issues. Maybe not. We'll find out. I got to tell you, I really appreciate the fact that they're willing to come on here and discuss it and take questions. Take questions. We'll be back right after the news break at the top of the hour. Be sure to stay tuned for the second hour of the Raw Nerve. I'll be back after that, and I'll see you then.
NPR News in Washington, I'm Barbara Klein. Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid and Republican Leader Mitch McConnell are trying to negotiate an end to the nation's budget stalemate. But even their talks are at an impasse over Democratic demands that the across-the-board spending cuts be changed or reversed. The GOP sees sequestration as crucial to reducing the deficit. Meanwhile, several other senators took to the airwaves today. NPR's Dan Bobkoff reports.
Senator John McCain of Arizona had a stark assessment for his Republican colleagues, telling CBS's Face the Nation that Tea Party Republicans in the House will have to give up their demand to defund the Affordable Care Act in order to strike a deal.
They're going to have to understand that we're on a fool's errand.
McCain added that he believes the shutdown is putting national security at risk. Also on CBS, New York Democratic Senator Chuck Schumer, who's attended some of the negotiations, says he believes Senate leaders on both sides are moving closer to a deal.
I'm cautiously hopeful, optimistic that we can come to an agreement and open up the government and avoid default.
He's hopeful an agreement will prevent the next round of sequester cuts scheduled for January. Dan Bobkoff, NPR News.
Former Arizona Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords today made her first visit to a gun show since surviving a 2011 assassination attempt. Giffords is a gun rights supporter, and as Mark Garber of member station WNYC reports, she's also supporting some new gun control measures.
Giffords was accompanied by her husband, astronaut Mark Kelly, and New York State Attorney General Eric Schneiderman as they toured the Saratoga Springs Arms Fair in upstate New York. She says Congress needs to change gun control laws.
Now is the time to come together. Be responsible. Democrats, Republicans, everyone.
Giffords was in New York as part of her national campaign for stricter gun control and to highlight a voluntary agreement with gun show operators that closely monitors gun show sales in the state. Giffords was shot in the head while meeting with constituents in Tucson. 6 people died in the attack. For NPR News, I'm Mark Garber in New York.
In central India, a stampede by crowds of Hindu worshippers has left at least 89 people dead. Pilgrims were crossing a bridge over the Sindh River when rumors spread the bridge was collapsing. The BBC's Nitin Shrivastava reports.
The rescue and relief operations were actually taken up by specialist divers because many of the people jumped off the bridge after this panic spread. So the rescue and relief operations had to be halted late at night because of poor and bad light conditions. They will resume this morning. As far as the officials are concerned, they say that they're going to launch an investigation very soon into what led to the rumors and how mayhem broke.
The BBC's Nitin Shrivastava. This is NPR. Gunmen in northwestern Syria have kidnapped 7 Red Cross aid workers. The International Committee for the Red Cross is demanding their release, noting they provide humanitarian assistance to both sides in Syria's civil war. Homeland Security vehicles, uniformed and undercover police, and bomb-sniffing dogs line the streets of today's Chicago Marathon, which was run without incident. Kenyan Dennis Kamato came in after 2 hours, 3 minutes, and 45 seconds, setting a record. The runners observed a moment of silence for the victims of the bombings at the Boston Marathon in April, when 3 people were killed, more than 260 injured. Game 2 of baseball's American League Championship Series is getting underway this hour with the Detroit Tigers and the Boston Red Sox. The Tigers beat the Sox in Game 1 thanks in part to Detroit's pitching, as NPR's Mike Pesca reports.
The bristled edges of Boston's bountiful beards were singed last night as Tiger starter Anibal Sanchez struck out a dozen Red Sox batters. The Detroit bullpen added 5 more strikeouts as the Red Sox managed only 1 hit in their 1-0 defeat. The Tigers' lone run came off the bat of Johnny Peralta, who during the season served a 50-game suspension for use of performance-enhancing drugs. Problematically for the Sox, Sanchez is only the third best Tiger starter. They face staff ace Max Scherzer today in Fenway Park. The winner of this series will face the winner of the series between the St. Louis Cardinals and the LA Dodgers. The Cardinals are up 2-0 after they, like the Tigers, won by a score of 1-0 yesterday. Mike Pesca, NPR News.
And I'm Barbara Klein, NPR News in Washington.
The Legacy Group in Silverdale is a well-respected independent mortgage banker, absolutely committed to helping Kitsap County families on their path to home ownership. As an employee-owned company, the Legacy Group has a strong stake in your success, and they want to be your lifetime partner in helping you develop a strong real estate portfolio. Call the Legacy Group in Silverdale today at 698-6440 and find out how they can help you get started on the road to home ownership. 698-6440 for the Legacy Group, a lending experience that's a little different and a lot smarter.
Hey, it's St. Paul with the Outlaw Radio Network, and you can email me anytime at stpaul@outlawradionetwork.com. As always, you can check out our live show every Sunday night from 7 to 11 p.m. on our website, outlawradionetwork.com. And you can also download our podcast from that website or from the iTunes Store for free. More of the Outlaw Radio Network after this.
The Home Buyers Association of Kitsap County is an association of professional builders, subcontractors, service providers, and purveyors representing the home building industry. For more than 50 years, the Home Builders Association of Kitsap County has provided information, education, and services that promote the health and welfare of the home building industry. As leaders of the industry, the Home Builders Association of Kitsap County fosters safe, affordable housing and addresses issues affecting our industry. To find out more, visit them online at kitsap.hba.com.
Located on beautiful Silverdale waterfront, Oxford Suites offers 104 non-smoking suites. It's the perfect place for an evening away or for those out-of-town relatives, and with military and senior discounts, it has never been more affordable to stay. Enjoy a complimentary hot breakfast, free high-speed wireless internet, on-site fitness center, and indoor pool. Oxford Suites in Silverdale, exceptional, has never been so affordable.
Bremerton Bar and Grill is your new neighborhood bar and grill. At Bremerton Bar and Grill, they're an American-style, family-friendly restaurant that offers spectacular outdoor dining, happy hours twice a day, 18 draft beers, award-winning menus, and fast, friendly service. Need space for a private party? Reserve the Brad Johnson private dining room and dine in a real bank vault. Bremerton Bar and Grill, 190 Pacific Avenue, right across the street from the ferry terminal in downtown Bremerton.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back for the second hour of The Raw Nerve, right here on EdgeMediaSource.com. I'm your host. I'm Susan C., and my cohort in crime, who's normally with me, Bad Boy Dennis B., he is homesick. So, feel better, big guy. Feel better. I miss him. He's fun. Yeah. But I've got Strip stepping in for me today, and I appreciate it. So, thanks a lot. Now, you can tell I'm a little froggy, but I'm a lot better than I was last week, I'll tell you that. I couldn't even do the show. I didn't have a voice. It was terrible. Lots and lots of things going on, though, that got me thinking, got me wondering about what's going on in this world. I swear there's something in the water. Now, you might have saw this. It was on the news. What are the things that made me go, huh? Really? Stand-up comedians have long joked about some things, like the actual components of chicken nuggets, and said they're better off left mysterious. Now, recently, Mississippi researchers found out why. 2 nuggets that they examined consisted of 50% or less chicken muscle tissue, the breast or thigh meat that comes to mind when the customer thinks of chicken. The nuggets came from 2 national fast food chains in Jackson. The 3 researchers selected 1 nugget from each box, preserved, dissected, and stained the nuggets and looked at them under a microscope. Now, the first nugget was about half muscle. The rest was a mix of fat, blood vessels, and nerves. Close inspection reveals cells that line the skin and internal organs of the bird, according to authors who write in the American Journal of Medicine. The second nugget was only 40% muscle, and the remainder was fat, cartilage, and pieces of bone, ground up bone. We all know white chicken meat is one of the best sources of lean protein available and encourage our patients to eat it. What has happened is that some companies have chosen to use artificial mixture of chicken parts rather than low-fat chicken white meat, batter it up and fry it and still call it chicken. Now, it really is a chicken byproduct high in calorie, salt, sugar, and fat. Excuse me. That is a very unhealthy choice. Even worse, it tastes great, and kids love it, and it's marketed to them. The nuggets he examined would be okay to eat occasionally, but he worries that since they're cheap, convenient, and taste good, kids eat them often. His own grandchildren beg for chicken nuggets all the time, and he compromises by making them at home by pan-frying chicken breasts with a small amount of oil on his own there. Chicken nuggets are an excellent source of protein, especially for kids who might be picky eaters. This is according to Ashley Peterson, the Vice President of Scientific and Regulatory Affairs for the National Chicken Council, a nonprofit trade group that represents the U.S. chicken industry. According to the NCC, its member producers and processors account for about 95% of the chicken produced in the U.S. Okay, come on. How many times have you joked yourself, well, what part of the chicken's a nugget? Right? Come on, we all have. What amazes me is that people are shocked when they find out what it really is. I agree. If you market something as being chicken breast, and I bought a ton of chicken nuggets in my lifetime, believe you me, I've got kids and grandkids. And if you go and you buy the bag or the box that you buy, says on the front, chicken breast, I expect there to be chicken breast meat in that. Primarily. But I'll tell you something else for all the people that are going, ooh, ick, you, ooh, you. I also guarantee you, and people don't think about this, if you go to a 5-star restaurant and you order a steak, any steak that is not what you call a medallion steak, you know, the little round ones like filet mignon, if you order a flank steak or a ribeye steak, any kind of T-bone, porterhouse, steaks like that, I guarantee you are eating beef. You're also eating fat, nerve tissue, connective tissue, probably ground up bone from where it was cut up when they butchered the animal. And we're talking a 5-star restaurant. And it tastes good. It's good. You can't take out nerves. They're all through tissue. Animals have them just like we do. Blood vessels, if you don't have them all through the tissues die. So yeah, they're thick with blood vessels, they're thick with nerves, and you eat them. You don't notice them. They're very tiny. They're looking at them under microscopes. Yeah. And most cows and pigs and whatnot that we choose to eat tend to be a little on the fatty side too. So there's that mixed in too. It's called marbling. Excuse me. Point of it is, you eat this stuff all the time, no matter what you eat, as long as you're eating meat. And that's just the way it is. Kids love them. Picky kids eat them. I wouldn't make a steady diet of it, no. And I'd much rather my kids have like baked chicken than fried chicken any day. Any day. So it's not going to hurt anything. Now and then have it for a treat. Kids enjoy it. You meet the great grandma or you're the wonderful mom, whatever. The kids come home and that's what they have. Don't worry about it. It just sounds really gross, doesn't it? It's kind of like hot dogs. I know what's in hot dogs. I do know what's in hot dogs. I still like hot dogs. I do. Now this is something that would absolutely have me up in arms. I would be screaming. A Pima County, Arizona 911 dispatcher is heard laughing during an emergency call placed by a motorist, Lolo Delgado, who called 911 after his girlfriend and his Jeep caught on fire. Now, after he hears laughing, Delgado wants to know what was so funny about his call. Excuse me. At the beginning of the 911 call, excuse me, Delgado tells the dispatcher what happened. Dispatcher, 911, what's your emergency? Delgado, yeah, my car just kind of caught on fire, and my girlfriend caught on fire. Delgado says in the exchange that followed, the dispatcher didn't seem to be taking him seriously. The dispatcher said, is your girlfriend still on fire? Delgado, no. Dispatcher, no. Laughter. Okay, is your vehicle still on fire? Delgado comes back and says, it's hilarious, huh? Dispatcher, okay, sir, is your vehicle still on fire? Delgado says, I just heard you smirk. And dispatcher says, okay, sir, I wasn't regarding that, okay? Delgado, yeah, I heard you laugh. My vehicle's not on fire. Send the expletive, whatever you guys have, all right? Dispatcher, okay. Now, Delgado believes, or he says he believes, that the dispatcher wasn't the only one who found his emergency humorous. Her initial reaction was laughter, and not just on her behalf, but the people in the background. As soon as I told them what was going on, it was just clearly that they just burst out into laughter. Now, Delgado's filed a complaint. After an initial investigation, Pima County Sheriff Captain Carl Woolridge says the department agreed that the dispatcher's behavior was inappropriate. The dispatcher had a momentary lapse in professionalism and decorum without question. The Pima County Sheriff's Department is currently conducting an official investigation into the cause. The result is still pending. Delgado said it took 4 hours to get his girlfriend airlifted to a hospital. Officials for the Pima County Sheriff's Department say the remote area where the incident took place made it difficult to get to the location and provide the emergency services. The woman who was burned in the fire has second and third degree burns over 40% of her body, so it was a serious, significant burn. She's now resting at home. The dispatcher has been with the Sheriff's Department since April 2012. I have to admit, if I were in a situation where my vehicle caught on fire and somebody I cared about was on fire as well, and I called for help like you're supposed to, and the person I was dealing with started laughing when I told them what the problem was, I would be more than a little livid. More than a little. Now, they can come back and say, oh, it didn't have anything to do with the call. It was something else, going on over here. I don't care. No. If I call you because I have an emergency going on, I want your 100% undivided attention. I want you paying attention to what I'm telling you. I want you paying attention to what you're telling me and what you're sending out for help, and nothing going on around you. That's your job. This is a theme tonight, isn't it? People not doing their jobs. Congress, 911, NSA. What does it take to get people to do their damn jobs? I wish I had the answer to that. But I got to tell you, I don't blame this guy for being more than a little ticked off. And I would really wonder if taking 4 hours to get her airlifted to a hospital, if it was all because of location. I would really wonder that. I would. Now, I found this interesting because it came out of California. NBC News reported that a California woman who spanked her daughter 5 to 6 times with a wooden spoon, leaving bruises, should not have been labeled a child abuser. This is according to State Appeals Court. The 6th District Court of Appeal in San Jose ruled that the Santa Clara County Department of Social Services had violated Victoria Gonzalez's rights by disregarding a parent's right to impose reasonable discipline upon their child, and that the department's claim that Gonzalez is a child abuser is unfounded. Now, Gonzalez reprimanded her 12-year-old daughter in 2010 for lying, refusing to complete homework assignments, and for her growing interest in joining a gang. Gonzalez had warned her daughter that she would receive 1 spanking for each act of defiance, since grounding had proven ineffective. The court said the Department of Social Services must conduct a new hearing or dismiss the case. The court also ruled that Gonzalez's daughter should not have been denied the opportunity to testify and contest the conclusions of the social workers. A hearing officer had argued that ordering the daughter to testify would be traumatizing. Right. There is no evidence in this record that the daughter would have suffered distress of any kind or degree, let alone trauma. Gonzalez, who is not charged with the crime, would have been permanently added to the statewide registry of child abusers if the department's claims were upheld. So this is a big deal. This is a big deal, apparently in California at least. If you are found guilty of abusing a child in any way, you're added to a statewide registry, just like everywhere else has a sex offender registry. This is something that potential employers can find, can locate and see. Potential landlords, whatever. It's a big deal. And I got to tell you, if you've got a 12-year-old who is lying, refusing to complete homework, and wants to join a gang, if that were my 12-year-old child, I would be doing a lot to try to discourage her from doing this. And I got to tell you, we're to a point in this country where parents are afraid to spank their children. Yes, I am a proponent of spanking. There is a difference between abuse and discipline. And most perfectly normal, sane, intelligent human beings recognize a difference. And most parents are intelligent, sane, normal people. There are a few bad apples, there always are, and these people need to be weeded out and punished. But not all of them. Not all of them. If I had a daughter that wanted to join a gang, I would tie her up before I would let her do that. Before I would let her out that house to go to join them and go do whatever they're doing. And now they're coming out and saying, no, well, she spanked her with a wooden spoon. She told her, number one, it was going to happen. And she told her she was going to get one spanking for each act of defiance that she perpetrated. Apparently, the mother had tried other methods. It said grounding had proven ineffective. Think about it. What do you do when you've got a child who is so defiant that what you're trying, the grounding, taking things away, blah, 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 don't work? Then what do? You're going to give them up to the state and say they're incorrigible and can't deal with them and put them in foster care? No, most parents won't do that. Still love your kid. You can hate the behavior, but you still love the kid. And let's face it, a parent's job is to make sure their kids get a good start. And to get a good start, you've got to have a good basis. And to have a good basis, you've got to know right from wrong. And if that takes a little application to the hiney to get the point across, so be it. I cannot believe this actually had to go to court. I don't know. We're living in a time when people are afraid. They really are. They're afraid CPS is going to swoop in. They're going to take their kids away. The courts are going to get involved, and it's going to be a horrible mess. And sadly, that's a valid fear. Because it happens all the time. It shouldn't. But it does. So we've got people watching over your shoulder to make sure you're, disciplining your children appropriately. But where were those people for this gal? Surveillance video captured by Johanna's security camera shows it all. A car smashed through the front of a Black Diamond gift store. This was a week ago, last Thursday. He said, I heard the crash. I thought it was a bomb or something. It was so loud. Now, the driver never appeared to hit the brakes as she punched a huge hole in the storefront of the Black Bear Outpost gift shop. A sign in the front window indicated the store was supposed to have its grand opening in just 7 days. Now, when the police arrived on the scene, they found that the driver, 58-year-old Laura Kelch, in an adjoining liquor store. Okay. Gal plows her car in the front of the building, gets out of the car, goes next door to the liquor store. Okay. They gave her a field sobriety test, which she failed. What a shock. A breathalyzer registered nearly 3 times the legal limit to drive. 3 times. Witnesses say she appeared to be dazed and confused. It looked like she'd had a stroke or something, said Robin McNeil, who owns MJ Vapors in the same strip mall. Now, police arrested Kelch, but because there wasn't room at the local jail, this is the part of the story that boggled my brain. Because there wasn't room at the local jail, they impounded her car and gave her a ride home. Yep. Now keep in mind, this all started at 11 o'clock in the morning. She was this drunk at 11 in the morning. Excuse me. The story doesn't end there, though. McNeil said his first thought was, oh my God, she's back. Witnesses say about an hour after being released, Kelch drove her husband's truck right back to the same liquor store. Somebody called the police, and investigators determined she was still drunk. Excuse me. They arrested her again and towed the truck. It was her second DUI arrest in just a few hours. Now, a search of court records found no other drunk driving offenses for Kelso, Washington. To people working in busy strip mall, it isn't the audacity, as it was the outrageous disregard for people's safety. Excuse me. Oh, got a tickle. At first, I was angry, according to Mr. McNeil. She said she could have hit any one of us walking back and forth, but now I kind of feel sorry for her. That was a blessing for God. Nobody got hurt. She's obviously a very sick woman. Now, okay. There was a time, long ago, in a universe far, far away, if you got stopped and cops figured out you were drunk and you're driving, well, if you go back far enough, they just told you go home. They thought you'd been drinking, they'd say, go home. And you'd leave and hopefully go home because you're not fit to drive. Then there was a period of time when if they pulled you over, they thought you were drinking, they'd make you call somebody to come down and drive you home. They'd wait and see that somebody else, that wasn't drunk showed up to drive you home. Things have changed. But I got to tell you, when you're 3 times over the legal limit to drink and drive at 11 o'clock in the morning, they take you to jail and they say there's no room, so you get to go home. No. Whatever happened to drunk tanks? It used to be you'd get picked up if you were drunk driving, if you were drunk in public, blah, blah, blah. You got kicked out of a bar or got in a fight. You'd end up in the drunk tank. A big cell at the local jailhouse, and they'd let you sober up. Sleep it off, sober up, then they'd send you home with a request to come back to a court appearance. I wonder what happened. I can't imagine that they actually sent this woman home. They gave her a ride home. Boggles my brain. 2 DUIs in a matter of just a couple of hours. She was really trying to get to that liquor store, I'll tell you. Now, this one, as far as I'm concerned, comes under chutzpah. Out of Mineola, New York, a mentally disturbed woman who drowned her 3 young children in a bathtub is going to court to ask a judge for a cut of their $350,000 estate. Yeah. Leatrice Brewer will be taken from an upstate psychiatric facility to testify about her request next month, according to Nassau County Surrogate Court Judge Edward McCarty ruled Thursday. Now, Brewer, 33, was found not guilty because of mental disease or defect in the deaths of her children aged 1, 5, and 6. So her attorneys say that she shouldn't be subject to laws that bar convicts from profiting from their crimes. So, and there are laws. I believe it was the Son of Sam law that was passed. Yeah, New York Son of Sam law. It was named for the 1970 serial killer and amended in 2001, was designed to prevent criminals from profiting from their crimes, such as by selling the stories to book publishers or movie makers. The judge in Brewer's case, though, has noted that the unique aspect, Brewer wasn't convicted. Now, that's kind of interesting. A lot of times when somebody is mentally incompetent to stand trial or they're mentally incompetent to be imprisoned, very often they're found guilty by reason of insanity. There's a difference between guilty by reason of insanity from not guilty because of mental disease or defect. So this woman kills her 3 children, and now they're saying that she could get a portion, a cut, of their estate that was paid because they died. Yeah. She admitted she drowned the children in the bathtub of her apartment in Newcastle on Long Island, about 20 miles east of New York City, back in 2008. She later placed the children's bodies on a bed and tried to kill herself by swallowing a concoction of household cleaning chemicals. When that suicide bid failed, she jumped out a second-story window but again survived. Instead of facing trial on 3 murder counts for her children's death, Brewer pleaded not responsible by reason of mental disease or defect. So she never even went to trial. Psychiatrists had determined she suffered from a major depressive disorder and believed she killed the children to save them from the potentially fatal effects of voodoo. She's being kept at State Psychiatric Hospital until psychiatrists determine she's no longer mentally ill. And you know, the interesting thing about this too is that if the time comes that the psychiatrists say that she is no longer mentally ill due to treatment, therapy, or medication, they have to release her because she was never convicted of anything. So they have to release her. I'm sorry, I don't think this is right. I just don't. Now, this whole case drew national attention to Nassau County Social Service Agency, whose caseworkers visited Brewer's apartment 2 days before the killings and found no one home, but neglected to schedule an immediate follow-up visit. The 2 social workers were later suspended. Lawsuits against the county filed by the father of Brewer's 1-year-old son, Innocent Demescu, and 5-year-old son, Michael Demescu, were settled for $250,000. A lawsuit filed by the father of Brewer's 6-year-old daughter, Jewel Ward, was recently settled for $100,000. That's where the $350,000 estate comes from. Can you believe that? Boggled my brain. I don't know. We went through a period where it seemed like the best thing to do was to close down all the mental hospitals and the facilities where we kept people who were mentally not able to function with the rest of society. Maybe that wasn't such a good idea to shut them all down. Take a break here for the sponsors at the bottom of the hour. We'll be back in just a few.
The Legacy Group in Silverdale is a well-respected independent mortgage banker, absolutely committed to helping Kitsap County families on their path to home ownership. As an employee-owned company, the Legacy Group has a strong stake in your success, and they want to be your lifetime partner in helping you develop a strong real estate portfolio. Call the Legacy Group in Silverdale today at 698-6440 and find out how they can help you get started on the road to home ownership. 698-6440 for the Legacy Group, a lending experience that's a little different and a lot smarter.
Hey, it's St. Paul with the Outlaw Radio Network, and you can email me anytime at stpaul@outlawradionetwork.com. As always, you can check out our live show every Sunday night from 7 to 11 p.m. on our website, outlawradionetwork.com. And you can also download our podcast from that website or from the iTunes Store for free. More of the Outlaw Radio Network after this.
The Home Buyers Association of Kitsap County is an association of professional builders, subcontractors, service providers, and purveyors representing the home building industry. For more than 50 years, the Home Builders Association of Kitsap County has provided information, education, and services that promote the health and welfare of the home building industry. As leaders of the industry, the Home Builders Association of Kitsap County fosters safe, affordable housing and addresses issues affecting our industry. To find out more, visit them online at kitsap.hba.com.
Located on beautiful Silverdale waterfront, Oxford Suites offers 104 non-smoking suites. It's the perfect place for an evening away or for those out-of-town relatives, and with military and senior discounts, it has never been more affordable to stay. Enjoy a complimentary hot breakfast, free high-speed wireless internet, on-site fitness center, and indoor pool. Oxford Suites in Silverdale, exceptional, has never been so affordable.
Bremerton Bar and Grill is your new neighborhood bar and grill. At Bremerton Bar and Grill, they're an American-style, family-friendly restaurant that offers spectacular outdoor dining, happy hours twice a day, 18 draft beers, award-winning menus, and fast, friendly service. Need space for a private party? Reserve the Brad Johnson private dining room and dine in a real bank vault. Bremerton Bar and Grill, 190 Pacific Avenue, right across the street from the ferry terminal in downtown Bremerton.
And welcome back. This is the Raw Nerd right here on Edge Media. I'm doing so well today. EdgeMediaSource.com. I want to remind everybody, the show that immediately follows mine is the Outlaw Radio Network. And that's hosted by K-Dog and St. Paul, the Voice of Reason. And in the 7:30 period, live in the studio, they're going to be having current mayor, Patty Lynch, and her opponent for in the upcoming election, Todd Best, is going to be here live in studio answering questions about where they think Bremerton ought to go. Maybe you ought to be in there asking, where do you think it ought to? What do you think they should do? You know, seriously, something's got to be done. Something's got to be done. I think that's going to be fascinating. I can't wait. That's going to be really interesting. Now, This is something that absolutely gave me pause. Just made me like, I had to read it a few times. Out of New Orleans, according to the Associated Press, a 71-year-old Louisiana prisoner, get this, who spent 41 years in solitary confinement. 41 years in solitary confinement. And is now dying of cancer, was released late Tuesday, from prison. Now, late last Tuesday, U.S. District Chief Judge Brian Jackson in Baton Rouge denied the state's motion seeking to block his earlier order overturning Herman Wallace's 1974 murder conviction in the death of Angola prison guard Brent Miller. Now, Jackson had also ordered a new trial because women were unconstitutionally excluded from the grand jury that indicted Wallace in the guard's death. He ordered that Wallace be immediately released. Wallace and two other inmates convicted of the 23-year-old guard's slaying came to be known as the Angola Three. Wallace of New Orleans was serving, at the time, a 50-year term for armed robbery sentence when Miller was fatally stabbed in 1972. Wallace and the two other convicted in Miller's death were moved to isolation at the Louisiana State Penitentiary in Angola. Now, in 2009, Wallace was moved to closed cell restriction, that's what they called it, at Hunt Correctional in St. Gabriel, and recently taken to the prison's hospital unit. Amnesty International USA last year delivered a petition to Louisiana Governor Bobby Jindal's office containing 65,000 signatures from people around the world who call the men's solitary confinement inhuman and degrading. Amnesty International, for the love of Pete. Right. Wallace's attorney said the freed prisoner left a correctional center in St. Gabriel by ambulance Tuesday evening and was expected to go to LSU Interim Hospital in New Orleans for treatment of advanced terminal liver cancer. Tonight, Herman Wallace has left the walls of Louisiana prisons and will be able to receive medical care that his advanced liver cancer requires. Now, earlier that day, Jackson overturned Wallace's 1974 murder conviction in Miller's death. The record in this case makes clear that Mr. Wallace's grand jury was improperly chosen in violation of the 14th Amendment guarantee of the equal protection of the laws, and that Louisiana courts, when presented with the opportunity to correct this error, failed to do so. He added, our Constitution requires this result even where, as here, it means overturning Mr. Wallace's conviction nearly 40 years after it was entered. Wallace's, whose birthday is October 13, has been diagnosed with terminal liver cancer. Kendall says he was ceased receiving treatment a couple of weeks ago. Now, wow. Nobody disputes that he did this, that Mr. Wallace did this. He killed the guard. Nobody disputes this. The reason they overturned his conviction publicly and on paper anyway, is because his grand jury that was convened 41 years ago that indicted him contained no women on purpose. Not just the way it worked out, but on purpose. It had no women sitting on it. Constitutionally, that's not fair. So they go back 41 years and use that as an excuse and a reason to overturn his conviction and set the man free. He's 71 years old in advanced end-stage terminal liver cancer. It wouldn't have anything to do with the fact that the state penal system doesn't want to pay for end-stage health care. Right. 41 years. And I got to tell you, 41 years in solitary confinement, there's a lot of murderers in prisons. They don't get 41 years of solitary confinement for committing murder. That seems like a bit of an overreaction. I mean, it's a terrible thing that this 23-year-old guard was killed. Apparently there was not like a riot, but an uprising, a bit of an uprising, at the prison he was staying in at the time. And I just don't get the, 41 years in solitary confinement for committing murder. Yes, he should be locked up. And if he got life, it looks to me like he's at the end of that. So his sentence would be pretty close to being fulfilled. Who knows? 41 years. They overturned his conviction. Go figure. And this is another one that made me just really puzzle about this. State correctional officers are investigating whether an inmate at the Monroe Correctional Complex here in Washington State lay dead in his cell for nearly 2 days before officers realized he wasn't breathing. Think about this. Think about it for a second. Jerry Jameson, 48 years old, who was serving 8 years on a drug conviction, was last spotted moving in his cell September 19th at 10 p.m. This is what they wrote down, was that he was moving then. Reports indicate he was found dead from heart failure around noon on Saturday, September 21st, 2 days later. Jameson had a pre-existing heart condition. Now, Jameson was not required to leave his cell during those 2 days. Jameson says an investigation will determine whether Jameson was up and about during multiple head counts on those days. I believe in my heart that he just laid there with no one, said Brianna Jameson, Jerry Jameson's wife. She said Jameson called every day, but the phone calls stopped on Wednesday. A funeral service that received Jameson's body said it was too decayed to embalm. The funeral service director added that is likely because the body was not cared for in a timely manner. Do you think? Just because someone is in jail, it doesn't matter what they are in there for. They still have to be treated like a human being, according to his wife. I never got a chance to say goodbye. Now, I got to say, just walking by 2 or 3 times a day, looking through a slot in the door or looking through a window or whatnot, saying, hey, I see them, they're here. That just doesn't seem right. Nobody saw this guy go to chow or eat chow. Nobody, even if he didn't leave his cell, he was in one of the situations where they bring your tray to you. Nobody noticed he didn't eat. Nobody noticed anything. I'm sorry, this is right here in Washington State, and I find this to be an embarrassment. It really is. And I'm sorry, I don't care. You're in prison because you did something you shouldn't have done, but that doesn't mean you're not a human being. And that sort of treatment is just so wrong on so many levels. I just couldn't believe that myself. I read that and I'm like, they've got to be kidding. Sadly, no. Not in the least. Now, I don't have a lot of sympathy for people in prison. I really don't. Because you live your life the way you want to live it. And if you want to live your life in such a way that prison is part of it, that's your choice. Not to say that there aren't innocent people in prison. I'm a firm believer in capital punishment. But I don't think another human being should be put to death under capital punishment until the entire system is completely overhauled. And we can say with certainty that we're not executing innocent people. It's a good thing to have, but let's do it right. And I don't think we're there yet. Think about it. But I do think if you are in prison, don't be asking for a whole lot of stuff, because I don't think you should get it. I think prison is supposed to be somewhere you don't want to go. I'm not saying I think it should be, bread and water and balls and chain and all that stuff. No. But I don't think inmates that are constantly filing petitions and lawsuits and whatnot for, they don't like the lunches. They don't like whatever. No. I have very little sympathy for that. Now, if you remember Dzhokhar Zarminev, the Boston Marathon bomber? Yep. He has to judge Wednesday lift restrictions placed on him in prison, arguing that the conditions are overly harsh, have left him nearly totally isolated, and are impairing his attorney's ability to defend him. Now, his lawyer said in a motion filed in court that he has been confined to his cell except for visits from them and has very limited access to a small outdoor enclosure. Zarminev, who is 20 years old, is accused of building and planting bombs near the finish line of the April 15th marathon, killing 3 people and injuring more than 260. Authorities say he and his older brother, Tamerlan, 26, ethnic Chechens from Russia, who immigrated to the United States as children, planned and carried out the attack to retaliate against the U.S. for its involvement in Muslim countries. Tamerlan Tasmaniev was killed 4 days after the marathon following a gun battle with police. Dzhokhar Tasmaniev was found wounded and hiding in a boat in the backyard in Watertown. Authorities says he had scrawled anti-American messages on the inside of the boat, including "The U.S. government is killing our innocent civilians," and "We Muslims are one body. You hurt one, you hurt us all." In their motion, Tasmaniev's lawyer said a special administrative measures were imposed on their client beginning in August at the request of U.S. Attorney Carmen Ortiz and the approval of the U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder. Excuse me. SAMs, as they are known, are used in terrorism cases and other high-profile cases when authorities allege there's a substantial risk that a defendant's communications or contacts with people could result in death or serious bodily injury to others. In other words, if left to their own devices and they could contact other people and be in contact with other people, they might pass orders or messages to hurt other people. Yeah. Now, the special restrictions, were placed on shoe bomb suspect Richard Reed, the American Taliban, John Walker Lynn, and other terrorist suspects. So this is not something they made up just for him. This is pretty SOP for terror suspects in the U.S. The measures restrict access to the mail, the media, the telephone, and visitors. Zarminev's lawyers say prosecutors have presented no evidence that the special restrictions are needed in his case. Excuse me. The government has not alleged that Mr. Zarminov has done or said anything since his arrest to commit violence, incite violence, or engage in communications that pose a security threat. This is what his lawyers argued. They also said the special measures limit his interaction with people who are helping the defense and restrict the communications and other activities of the defense team. In a memo outlining the factual basis for the restrictions, prosecutors said that he reaffirmed his commitment to the jihad and expressed hope that his actions would inspire others to engage in a violent jihad while he was being interviewed by the FBI after he was captured. So he was still spouting about the jihad, holy war, even after he was captured. There's no indication that his intentions have changed since then, according to prosecutors in a memo which was included in the defense motion. The motion was submitted by federal public defenders Miriam Conrad, William Flick, and Timothy Watkins, his attorneys, and San Diego attorney Judge Clark, a death penalty specialist. It is completely impractical for members of the defense team to keep track of the means by which they have learned the individual pieces of information from their client. They can't keep track of what he's telling them because he's too tightly controlled. I'm sorry. I watch those programs on TV, Lock Up and things like this, to see what it's like inside American prisons because I'm kind of curious. I've never lived that kind of lifestyle, so I've always wondered what it's like when people get put away. And I know that there is specific segregation, administrative segregation, for people who have committed higher level crimes or more well-known, say, high media interest type crimes. Yeah. So I know that this is not that uncommon. I've seen lots of times where people who have committed murders that were famous or were well documented or in the media made them famous for doing so. And they'd have very limited access to an exercise yard, which might not even be outside, just a room where they could go and shoot hoops or jog in a circle, whatever. So I do know that this is not unusual. This guy, and his brother killed these people, three of them, and they injured more than 260 people with their bombs. How caring are we supposed to be? And it comes out now that even after he was captured, he was being interviewed by the FBI, he's still spouting about the jihad and hoping that he inspired others to continue the jihad against us. A holy war against us. I got to tell you, I don't have a lot of sympathy. I really don't. I'm really sorry his brother was killed in that gun battle. I really am. Because I got to tell you, as far as I'm concerned, he should be locked up with him. I kind of like the idea that if you really step out of line and you just thumb your nose at the American people, you should suffer for it for a long time. That's just my opinion. Just my opinion. And I think being locked up like this with very tight controls and restrictions is a great way to start. I do. Whiner. Now this was really irritating to me, according to the Associated Press. California, not last Thursday, 3 days ago, but Thursday before, joined the growing list of states that allow immigrants who are in the United States illegally to obtain driver's licenses. A measure supported not only by Latino activists, but by police chiefs and insurance authorities. Democratic Governor Jerry Brown signed the bill in front of a cheering crowd of immigrants and their supporters, predicting other parts of the country will follow the example set by the nation's most populous state. The licenses, which are expected to become available no later than January 2015, will carry a special designation on the front and a notice stating that the document is not official federal identification and cannot be used to prove eligibility for employment or public benefits. This is only the first step, Brown said outside a city hall in Los Angeles. When a million people without their documents drive legally, and with respect to the state of California, the rest of the country will have to stand up and take notice. No longer are undocumented people in the shadows. 10 other states have enacted measures to give driver's licenses to immigrants in the country illegally, many of them in the past year, according to the National Immigration Law Center. Now, I have many, many times been labeled a bleeding heart liberal. I am not. I do believe in feeding children. I think it's a sin for any child in the United States of America to go to bed hungry at night. I do. I also think there's something wrong when we can go from, okay, if you sneak over the border and you are here illegally, that makes you a criminal. If I snuck over the border into Mexico, I would be a criminal to the Mexican authorities. I would be in their country illegally, and there's not a country in the world anywhere that has just open borders that you do not have to go through checkpoints and be approved to enter or leave the country. There's not a country in the world that has open borders. Okay? Where anybody can just come and go. Not one. I'm getting a little irritated with the fact that, and this has been proven, and they're talking about this is California, it's the largest, most populous state in the nation. Other states should pay attention. Yes, and you have the largest influx of illegal immigrants than any other state, followed closely by Texas and New Mexico, Arizona. Doesn't make it right. I don't think it's right that someone can sneak into this country and then our country come back and say, well, you did it. You pulled one over on us. Welcome your citizen. That's what a lot of people want to do. They want to give blanket amnesty to illegal immigrants. They are trying to make the term illegal immigrant a racial slur. That's the truth. That I have absolutely heard this. That they're trying to say that the term illegal immigrant is a racial slur. I don't understand that because the term illegal simply says other than an activity, other than a legal activity, that makes it illegal. Immigrant means somebody in this country from another country. How can that be a racial slur? I don't understand this. And believe it or not, I'm really not stupid. Yeah. I don't have a lot of sympathy for criminals. I never have. Of any sort. This is why I'm wondering, why are we bending over backwards trying to give blanket amnesty to people just because they made it? Now we're going to give them driver's licenses. I couldn't get a driver's license until I showed a birth certificate. And it had to be an official, notarized, original birth certificate to get my driver's license. I was born in Kansas. I'm as naturalized as you get. But I had to jump through hoops to get one. Does that mean everybody else, you don't have to show birth certificate anymore? You get one? Nobody? I got to tell you, if we still have to show birth certificates and they don't, that would be irritating in the extreme. That would be irritating. Now, this is kind of interesting. We're coming up to the top of the hour, and I want to remind you, please, stay tuned, because I think this is really important. And the Outlaw Radio Network is going to be coming on there from 7 to 11. They are going to have, in the 7:30 hour, from 7:30 to 8, they're going to have Patty Lint, who is a mayor of Bremerton. She's going to be here with her opponent in the upcoming election for the seat of the mayor of Bremerton, Todd Best. And they're going to be here in the studio. They're going to be just taking questions. They're going to be answering where they feel the city of Bremerton and how Bremerton goes. That affects a large area around us here. It really does. So it's very important what they say, where they think we're going to go, and how they think we're going to get there. So you want to stay tuned for that. That's going to be hosted by K-Dog and St. Paul, the Voice of Reason, on the Outlaw Radio Network. Stay tuned for that. Good heavens, that was startling. I'm looking for a finger or something over there. Well, I'll tell you what. I apologize for being so froggy today. I really, truly do. It's better than last week when I had absolutely no voice at all. Thought my head was going to explode too. But I figured, well, I can make it now. I'm better. You can make out what I'm saying. And poor Dennis, he's sick. If I got you sick, I apologize for that, honey. I'm really sorry. But Dennis, he'll be with me back next week. Hopefully he's getting better too. There's something going around. I'll tell you, there's a lot of people right now. And they have come out and said that people should go out and get their flu shots now. Which is kind of surprising because usually they say towards the end of November, mid to late November. But now they're saying the beginning to mid of October, because they're expecting a really bad flu season. Now, what I have isn't the flu. I have a cold, probably changing weather cold. But that's something to think about. If you have any pre-existing, like, respiratory issues, yeah. I have asthma, so I always get my flu shot. If you're around small children, especially infants, get your flu shot. They have less resistance to such things than you do. So it would behoove you, I think, to go out there and get your flu shot early. I'm going to go down and get mine as soon as I'm not sick anymore. They won't give you a flu shot if you're sick. Isn't that weird? Kind of odd thought. They won't give you a flu shot if you're sick. I'm not really sick. I just have this head thing, Go figure. Yeah. But anyway, that's my good advice for the day. Go get your flu shot. Get it early. Get it done. You don't have to worry about it. And the nice thing about it is this flu shot is covering 3 flus this year. Usually, always before, the flu shot covered 1. It always kind of amazed me. The medical community out there would pretty much be a roll of the dice. They'd make the best guess estimate to what strain of the flu they thought was going to be impacting the country the most this year. And that's what they would put into production, vaccine against that particular strain of flu. Now, how they could do that, I can't get my brain around that. How they can try to prognosticate what flu is going to be kicking our butts. But this one that we're getting this year, that covers 3 different flus. 3 different flu strains. So I think that's pretty cool. All righty, well, I'll tell you what, we're up against the top of the hour here. And like I said, stay tuned for K-Dog and St. Paul Voice of Reason on Outlaw Radio Network. I'll be back next week from 5 to 7 here on The Raw Nerve. And we'll see you then. Take care. Bye-bye.